This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there, hello there. It's Jeff Cutter Dublin. Welcome you to another sports catastrophe on this day. And on this day, 1954, that being 67 years ago, Sports Illustrated debuted with one of the most poignant covers ever. It was just a cut, as you can see, it's just people at Milwaukee County Stadium with Eddie Matthews at the bat, Wes Westrum behind the plate as catcher. Simplicity, no text on it other than say the first issue, the date, and the title. So it was the first magazine with a circulation over 1 million to win the National Magazine Award for Journal Excellence twice. It is known for its Wednesday issue, which has been around since 1964. Surprised the swimsuit issue was since the 60s. I thought it was the 1970s at least. So, anyway, there were actually two magazines before that were called Sports Illustrated beforehand. In 1936, it was created for targeted for sportsmen, and it was published for a few years on a monthly basis. It focused on golf, tennis, and skiing. The guy who created it, Stuart Sheffel, sold it to the name to Dell Publications, who did it in 1949. But that version only lasted 6 issues. So anyway, there was no large-based general weekly sports magazine with a national following on actual active events. Then Time patriarch Henry Luce said that the company should do it, so Time magazine tried their best. It would be a magazine, but with sports. The name almost became Muscle or Jockstrap or Sweat Socks. It wasn't actually profitable when it was launched in 1954, and not particularly well run at first, but the timing was good because the popularity of spectator sports was exploding after the war. So there were three things of the popularity: economic prosperity, TV, and Sports Illustrated. The early issues were caught between the opposing views of the audience. Some of the subject matter was directed at upper class activities like yachting, polo, and safaris. The magazine's fortunes actually turned around in the 1960s when a new managing editor who came from Europe, Andre Laguerre, came in. He was later chief of the Time Life news bureau in Paris and London. And he decided to, he doubled the circulation by instituting a system of department editors, redesigning the internal format, and inaugurating the use of the news magazine of full color photos of the previous week's sports events, because he sensed the rise of national interest in football with the AFL and NFL. Laguerre get the concept of one long story at the end of every issue, which is the bonus piece. These well-written, in-depth articles help to distinguish Sports Illustrated from everyone else and launch the careers of writers such as Frank DeFord. Ed Laguerre is the guy who was created with the concept of the swimsuit issue, which is the most popular thing each year, of course. Time would actually merge with Warner to form Time Warner. Time Incorporated was spun out from Time Warner, and in 2017, the Meredith Corporation decided to acquire Time Inc. And of course, that means that Sports Illustrated happened. And Meredith said that it didn't properly align with the company's lifestyle brands and publications. So they sold it to the Authentic Brands Group for $110 million. So anyway, Sports Illustrated had a lot of innovations. The use of color photos, because obviously color TV wasn't really much around until the 1970s, but the color photos, which was amazing. Scouting reports, as they actually would preview events like the World Series and the New Year's Day Bowl games. Some in-depth sports reporting. illustrations from artists. High school football player of the month awards. They actually inserted sports cards in the center of the magazine, but only 54 or 55. In 1984, they launched SI Interactive CD-ROM, which incorporated highlights from the year in sports. In 2015, they actually purchased a group of software companies to have a platform that offers sports league management software as a service. And then basically, color printing would be huge, as offset printing would help the color pages be printed overnight. And SI became the first American full-color news weekly in 1983, which was weird. A lot of their regular segments was who's hot, who's not, as in sports people who are on the upswing and the downswing. Also, they would say inside the NFL, MLB, NHL, basically addressing the latest news, rumors in their respective fields. Of course, every sport would get the inside the whatever. Faces in the crowd, which would honor amateur athletes and their accomplishments. Many faces in the crowd went on to do great things as professionals. And the point after is a back page column from stories to opinion. But a lot of people also remember the Sports Person of the Year award. That's SI, since 1954, presented it to the athlete or team whose performance that year most embodies the spirit of sportsmanship and achievement. Roger Bannister was the first to win it after his breaking the 4-minute mile mark. So I'll run down the Sports Illustrated Sports People of the Year. Sports Person of the Century, before the 21st century came, it was Muhammad Ali. And then the magazine would rename its Sports Award as the Muhammad Ali Legacy Award. They have lots of honors. So, yeah, so they were known for basically trying to get a lot of events going on. They even named a wrestler of the year the past few years. 2019, Jon Moxley. 2020, Sasha Banks. So by cover, the most covers by an athlete in history is Michael Jordan with 50, Muhammad Ali with 40 for second place. LeBron James is third with 25. Tiger, then Magic Johnson, Abdul-Jabbar, and Brady. Most covers by team, and these were from 54 to 2008. The Lakers were number one, beating the Yankees and the St. Louis Cardinals. By sport, baseball was number one. Hockey only had 100 covers from 54 to 2009. They were behind even boxing, and just one ahead of track and field. Celebrities on the cover. Not too many celebrities have been on the cover. But Brad Pitt was. Presidents on the cover. John F. Kennedy was one in 1960, Gerald Ford in 1974, Ronald Reagan twice, 84 and 87, and Bill Clinton, 94, about the Arkansas college basketball team. A lot of tribute covers happened and all that. There were some spin-offs. Sports Illustrated Kids magazine, I remember reading those as a kid. Sports Illustrated Almanac Annuals, I have one from 2016. I just can't find one that's past 2016. Sports Illustrated Canada. Oh, yeah, that's right. I have a few of those. Most of the issues have the same cover, but they said Canadian edition. A group of the Canadian issues have unique Canadian athletes, and the Canadian issues have different article content because it's Canada-centric. Sports Illustrated for women. Yeah, so, yeah. That was huge. So the Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year has been big since 1954. They picked a person. Notables: Roger Bannister, Stan Musial, Rayford Johnson, Ingmar Johansson, Arnold Palmer, Jerry Lucas, Pete Rozelle, Ken Venturi, Sandy Koufax, Jim Ryan, Carl Yastrzemski, Bill Russell, Tom Seaver. Bobby Orr was named one in 1970. Great. Lee Trevino, Billie Jean King, John Wooden, Jackie Stewart, Muhammad Ali, Pete Rose, Chris Everett, Jack Nicklaus, Terry Bradshaw, Willie Stargell, the U.S. Olympic hockey team in 1980 for obvious reasons. Wayne Gretzky was named in 82. Great. Mary Decker, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bob Bourne for hockey. But in 1987, it was 8 athletes who helped out other people, and Bob Bourne did that. Pretty cool. And Kip Kano as well. Dale Murphy is a charity spokesperson. So that was different. Earl Hershiser, Joe Montana, Michael Jordan, Bonnie Blair, Cal Ripken Jr., Tiger Woods, Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa. Yeah, the list goes on and on and on. 2020 was actually a 5-way tie because of all the athletes who helped out in the pandemic. Well, for social justice. Laurent Devine Tardif for being an orderly during the pandemic and didn't play for the 2020 Chiefs. LeBron James trying to help end photo suppression. Patrick Mahomes for pushing the Black Lives Matter thing to the NFL. Naomi Osaka for advocate for social justice, and Breanna Stewart, who was a WNBA Finals MVP who spoke against racism and for equality. But the one biggest thing about Sports Illustrated is the cover jinx. Basically, if you have a good performance, you're on the cover, and then the next week something bad happens to you and all that. In fact, the first massive jinx was Eddie Matthews, because he was the first person to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. The Braves actually had a winning streak snapped after that cover came out, and Eddie Matthews had broken hand. There's been some contradictions to the curse. Michael Jordan and Muhammad Ali, with 90 covers combined, they didn't have any negativity towards them. They didn't get jinxed. So yeah. George Mason's team was on the cover after making the 316 2006, and that didn't jinx them. They won the next 2 matches to go to the Final Four. The 2013 Seahawks were on the cover in September, and then they ended up winning the Super Bowl. Like they predicted Seattle to win Super Bowl in September 2013, and then by February they were the title holder. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of things. Notable incidents: Eddie Matthews. May 1956, the Indy 500 winner Bob Swigert was on the cover, but then he died in a sprint car crash 3 weeks later. Another big story was when Oklahoma was on the cover. Why Oklahoma was unbeatable? Because they won 47 straight games in NCAA football by 1957. But the next game saw them lose to the Irish. Jill Kinmont, who was a very good American skier, actually had a near fatal crash in Utah the same week she was on the cover. Yeah. Let's see. Pat O'Connor was on the cover in May 1958, and then he died on the first lap of the Indy 500 4 days later. February 1961, they covered some of the U.S. figure skating team that would be flying to Belgium, flying to the Czech Republic for the World Figure Skating Championship. Unfortunately, the U.S. figure skating team perished, and I believe that was canceled. If memory serves me right, was that canceled? Was the event canceled because of that? I think it was canceled. Yeah, I think they can't. I think they canceled. Yeah, they canceled the 1961 event. Let's see here. There's got to be a lot of them. Ricardo Rodriguez, one of the best young drivers in 1962, died in a car crash at the Mexican Grand Prix. Yeah, there's a ton of them. I actually should do like a cover jinx thing. Yeah, I'll do a video about the cover jinxes whenever time comes by. So yeah, I don't want to waste too much of your time here. This is just a simplicity one. So yeah, Sports Illustrated has been great and all that. I had a subscription for 1 year thanks to my sister-in-law. Unfortunately, that was also the year that the Patriots had their perfect season ruined by the Giants. To this day, I haven't really read a lot of Sports Illustrated. I curse Dr. C's name, or Paul Simmerman as you know him, every day because he's the guy who basically got the Giants to beat up on the Patriots in their unbeatable season. True story. Anyway, I'm Jeff Dunn. Now do